Welcome to this explainer, where we're breaking down a master blueprint for a truly massive 10-episode cinematic epic. If you're a fan of high-stakes hero stories, immense elemental powers, and incredibly deep mythological world-building, you are going to absolutely love this. We're looking at the core source material for Ekundayo, Balance of the Gods. It's a cinematic script built from the ground up for film production that tracks the rise of an unbelievably powerful vessel. So let's dive right in and see exactly how you construct a universe of this scale. To really get this epic narrative, we've got to ground ourselves in its primary inspiration. The entire world of Ekundayo is deeply rooted in the rich spiritual themes of Yoruba cosmology. We aren't just dealing with your standard superhero in spandex here. In Yoruba tradition, power stems from concepts like Ase, the spiritual life force that literally flows through all things. So the power doesn't come from some random lab experiment. It comes from a profound connection between divine forces, spiritual energy, and the delicate balance of the universe itself. It's ancient, it's cosmic, and it gives the whole story this massive philosophical weight. Here is our master map for how we're breaking this down. We're going to cover the origins of a divine hero, the architect of chaos, the 10-episode cinematic arc, high-intensity elemental combat, and finally, the power of balance.
Let's jump into Section 1, Origins of a Divine Hero and the Birth of Ekundayo.
Meet our protagonist, Ekundayo. This guy is an absolute powerhouse. He's a human vessel specifically chosen to embody the raw forces of the gods. And he isn't just wielding one ability. He commands lightning, fire, wind, earth, and pure spiritual energy. Picture a commanding figure with this glowing mystical aura, eyes burning with elemental light, and his very name emblazoned as a glowing symbol right on his chest armor. For anyone who loves epic, anime-style, overpowered heroes, Ekundayo is the ultimate convergence of divine might. But of course, there's a catch. Raw power means absolutely nothing without control. We track Ekundayo's emotional evolution here, and honestly, it's a super rocky road. Step 1 is just pure confusion and fear. He wakes up with god-tier power and has literally no idea what to do with it. That leads straight into Step 2, a terrifying loss of control. It isn't until Step 3, where he undergoes rigorous training and learns strict discipline, that he can even hope to reach Step 4, which is ultimate balance and mastery. It's a beautifully relatable journey, because really, who hasn't felt totally overwhelmed by their own potential, or frankly just their own emotions and hormones, before finally learning how to channel them? Moving on to Section 2. Every epic hero needs an equally epic villain to push them to their absolute limits, right? Enter the Architect of Chaos, our main antagonist, Ajagun. There is this brilliant dichotomy between our hero and our villain. Ekundayo represents divine convergence. He actively seeks balance and order. But Ajagun is born from the exact opposite. He is the literal embodiment of imbalanced chaos, fear, and corruption. What makes this rivalry so gripping is the stark contrast. While our hero is exploding with bright, fiery, elemental energy, our villain is this terrifyingly calm, deeply intelligent psychological darkness. Ajagun doesn't even view Ekundayo as a worthy equal. He just sees him as this incomplete, flawed being. And here is the really insidious part about how Ajagun operates. He doesn't just launch physical blasts of dark magic. He's way too smart for that. Ajagun actually grows stronger when humans panic, fight, and lose their unity. His primary weapon is manipulation. He whispers in the ears of vulnerable humans, convincing them that their own neighbors are the real threat. He uses manipulative dialogue to pit entire communities against one another. Every single time a community fractures in fear, Ajagun literally levels up. He feeds directly off their panic to increase his own power. Okay, Section 3, the 10-episode cinematic arc. Let's see how this rivalry actually paces out. This timeline perfectly structures our cinematic journey. We have a super clear 3-act structure spread across 10 episodes. Act 1 covers episodes 1 through 3, focusing on the origin. Act 2 spans episodes 4 through 7, dealing with chaos and growth. And Act 3 wraps it up in episodes 8 through 10 with war and balance. Let's break those down. In Act 1, those crucial first 3 episodes, Ekundayo's immense, uncontrollable power completely terrifies the very humans he is supposed to protect. He awakens totally confused in the human world. Imagine suddenly having the power to summon a hurricane, but you have no clue how to turn it off. The humans around him react with absolute fear and tension. It's a genius setup because the hero is accidentally creating the exact fear that feeds the villain. Then we move into Act 2. The middle of our story brings total chaos. Ekundayo unintentionally causes destruction and actually has to be pulled into a spiritual realm by divine forces just to learn basic intent and control. But when he finally steps up to face Ajagun, he just isn't ready. He suffers a crushing emotional defeat. He's beaten down and falls into profound inner doubt. This is that classic all is lost moment in the script where you really start to question how he could possibly recover.
But then we hit Act 3. In these final episodes, Ekundayo rises again, but with a completely new understanding of his purpose. He realizes he can't simply blast the darkness away with fire and lightning. Brute force just won't work against a villain who literally feeds on conflict. Instead, he needs human unity. He gains allies, uses community strength, and fights with strategic intelligence. The humans stop panicking, they stand together, and they effectively starve Ajagun of his power source, which allows Ekundayo to finally contain the darkness.
Of course, a script like this needs action. That brings us to Section 4, High-Intensity Elemental Combat, and directing the action. If you love pure spectacle, this is where the script totally shines. The combat choreography is this high-intensity fusion of visual and audio elements. We're talking sweeping, mythological African landscapes serving as the battlegrounds. The fights feature massive elemental storms, glowing armor, thunder, wind, the whole shebang. But it's not just big white shots. The script calls for tight, emotional close-ups so you feel every single punch and every moment of doubt. And underneath all of it, you have this booming soundtrack of deep tribal drums and orchestral pulses driving the action forward. It's designed to be a total sensory overload.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the core of our universe, the power of balance. Check out this quote. Power without control is destruction. That right there is the beating heart of the entire 10-episode arc. It's incredibly relatable. Having pure energy, immense talent, or huge abilities means absolutely nothing if you lack the discipline to control them. Unchecked power doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a hazard. This all builds into the core philosophy of the world. Balance is always greater than dominance. Fear feeds darkness, but human unity weakens it. True strength isn't about how hard you can hit, it's about self-mastery. And ultimately, your choices are what define you, not your abilities. The narrative beautifully illustrates that it's community, human unity, and the deliberate choices we make together that truly defeat chaos. By starving the villain of fear and standing united, balance is finally restored. And that brings us to the very end of the script. Ekundayo stands victorious, calm, powerful, a true guardian of balance, looking out over the world. But right beneath him, the seal holding the intelligent darkness of Ajagun begins to crack, just a little bit. And we're left with this final, chilling line. As long as darkness rises, so will the guardian of balance. It's the perfect cinematic cliffhanger, but it also leaves us with a question to think about in our own lives. When chaos and darkness rise in your own world, what kind of unity will you build to balance it out? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.